I never thought a single text message could rearrange 15 years of my life in one breath. It came in at 9:17 p.m. on a Tuesday while I was rinsing dishes. The house quiet, except for the hum of the dishwasher. "I'm taking a trip with my first love," it read. "Don't be jealous." No emojis, no explanation. Just that. I stared at the screen longer than I should have, waiting for the punchline that never came. "I'm Evan Calder, 43, married to Lila for 11 years. Or I was, depending on how you define marriage when the respect quietly leaves the room." Lila and I didn't start broken. We were practical, steady, the kind of couple people called solid. I work logistics, long hours, good pay, predictable rhythm. She ran a small design studio from home, flexible schedule, creative bursts between coffee refills. We weren't fireworks, but we were warm. Shared jokes, Sunday walks, late-night talks that drifted until sleep took us mid-sentence. We built a life that looked boring from the outside and felt safe on the inside. I believed in that safety the way you believe in gravity. It's just there. Somewhere around year 8, things softened in a way I couldn't quite name. Not hostile, just distant. Touch became optional. Eye contact less frequent. Her phone was always close, face down, vibrating with a life I wasn't invited into. I told myself not to read meaning into it. Everyone needs space. I learned to fold myself smaller, to ask less, to accept more silence. When I did speak up, gently, she'd smile and say I was overthinking. That reassurance worked for a while. It's amazing how far you can go on reassurance alone. The text didn't arrive out of nowhere, but it still felt unreal. First love has a weight to it. It isn't a coworker. It isn't a friend. It's history, memory, unfinished business. The part of someone that existed before you and somehow still matters more than you want to admit. I typed and erased a dozen replies. Finally, I sent 3 words. "When are you leaving?" She answered within seconds. "Friday. Don't make this a thing." I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I didn't ask for reassurance she had already made clear she wasn't interested in giving. I went to bed early that night and stared at the ceiling, counting breaths, listening to the quiet. In that quiet, something shifted. Not anger, not panic, just clarity. If she could reduce something this significant to a dare, then my role in her life had already been reduced without my consent. Over the next 2 days, I watched her pack with an almost clinical calm. She moved lightly, humming to herself, choosing outfits, charging devices. When she mentioned his name, Julian Rook, it was casual, like discussing a flight delay. She didn't ask how I felt. She didn't need to. She had already decided how much my feelings mattered. On Thursday night, she kissed my cheek and said, "You'll be fine." It wasn't cruel. It was dismissive. That's worse. Friday morning, after she left for the airport, I sat at the kitchen table and finished my coffee. I didn't rush. I didn't spiral. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared accounts. We'd always said transparency mattered. I kept that value. I transferred my paycheck into my personal account, canceled the discretionary transfer to hers, removed myself from shared subscriptions. Not out of spite, out of alignment. If she was stepping into a life without me, I was going to stop financing it. That afternoon, I packed a single suitcase. Clothes, documents, a framed photo of my father that had somehow survived every move. I left the house keys on the counter. No note, no speech. By the time her plane landed, I was already gone, checked into a modest apartment across town, A place with blank walls and no history. The quiet there felt different. Honest. She texted that night. You didn't answer. Are you mad? I replied once. I'm not jealous. I'm done. 3 minutes later, the calls started. Missed calls, voicemails, a sudden urgency that hadn't existed when she pressed send on her dare. I didn't pick up. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting myself. Over the next week, mutual friends reached out, confused, carrying messages they hadn't been asked to carry before. I told them the truth, plainly, without embellishment. Some understood. Some didn't. Lila came back early, according to one of them. The trip wasn't what she expected. It rarely is when fantasy meets reality. She emailed me a long message full of explanations, regret, and promises to talk. I read it once and archived it. Here's what I learned. When someone dares you to accept disrespect, they're testing how little you think you're worth. When they tell you not to be jealous, they're asking you to abandon your dignity so they don't have to feel guilty. I didn't leave because of another man. I left because the woman I was married to stopped seeing me as a partner and started treating me like an obstacle. I don't know what happens next for her. I know what happens next for me. I wake up without knots in my chest. I make plans that don't require permission. I trust my instincts again. The text that tried to humiliate me ended up freeing me, and that's a dare I'm glad I accepted.